Okay, where did I put that book at? Oh, here we go. I'm going to be doing a little discussion on this book. This is probably one of my favorite books in existentialism. This is The Myth of Sisyphus by Albert Camus. This is somewhat similar to The Ethics of Ambiguity by Simone de Beauvoir. She had a little bit different thing going for her, but this is more focused on, is life worth living and stuff like that. But this is very interesting. This is a very, very good book. This one actually has some other essays in it, but I'm going to talk about The Myth of Sisyphus right now. First of all, like Simone de Beauvoir had this concept of ambiguity. It's I forget how I would put that, but de Beauvoir had this kind of idea where, we have this constant drive to, complete certain goals in our life, and from getting, somewhat knocked down in those, and keep on trying, and yet, not having that working out. It's kind of an ambiguity and stuff as to life itself. But this is, the concept is called the absurd, and it's the conflict between the universe and what we expect to get from it and what we get, or what we find in it. It's, the de Beauvoir and Camus are similar, but it's worded differently, and different concepts are used. So, given this absurd, there's this conflict in life, that where what we find and what we are looking for in the universe conflict, and we don't. We try and we try and go out for things. We try and we try to go after goals, and stuff doesn't work out, and stuff like that. It's a kind of meaninglessness, purposelessness kind of going on in this life. So, what he first asks in this book, here, I'll find it. I'll read it. It's actually probably one of the more interesting beginnings to the book. There is but one truly serious philosophical problem, and that is suicide. Judging whether life is or is not worth living amounts to answering the fundamental question of philosophy. All the rest, whether or not the world has three dimensions, whether the mind has 9 or 12 categories, comes afterwards. These are games one must first answer, and if it is true, as Nietzsche claims, that a philosopher, to deserve our respect, must preach by example, you can appreciate the importance of that reply, for it will precede the definitive act. These are facts the heart can feel, yet they call for careful study before they become clear to the intellect. So, given this absurdity, and this leading to this meaninglessness and purposelessness, the question is this life worth living? Is suicide warranted? And that is the big question here. It's a big, huge question. Is this life worth living? And he says there's 3 options. The first 2 are hinging on the idea that this meaninglessness is not a life worth living. So it's the first 2 are, kind of trying to flee and escape away from this absurdity. De Beauvoir talked about that a lot, actually, that it's inauthentic to try and flee from this ambiguity, and it's the same here. It's just that, there's the first one, is to give a leap of faith towards, or putting faith into a certain deity that is transcendent or not proven or dogmatic. So it's basically a leap of faith. That's saying that meaninglessness is not worth living. So that's what these first two are. So by doing this, by putting faith in some transcendent dogmatic deity or something like that, that is going to thus put meaning, some kind of meaning, true or not. It's going to there's going to be some meaning there, meaning of some sort, and it's debatable on if that meaning is good or not, but according to Camus, this is in a way inauthentic. It's not. It's fleeing from this meaninglessness. The second one is suicide, killing yourself, not being able to live with this absurdity, the meaninglessness, the conflict. The first two, he says, are inauthentic. I don't think he actually says. I'm not sure if he uses the word inauthentic or not. Can't remember. Gosh, I read it I read this book like 2 months ago. I'm just doing a video about it now, so it's hard for me to remember exactly what he said. And these are notes I wrote from that point, so I still have good memory. But the third, Simone de Beauvoir's ethics of ambiguity, is that freedom. It's that accepting this ambiguity. It's accepting that, and it's having a certain way of acting in the world given this ambiguity that you have to live with. This third option is accepting a life in this absurd, meaningless world, essentially. So it's coming to terms with it. That's a common existentialist idea, is coming to terms with a certain thing. For Simone de Beauvoir, it's coming to terms and accepting the ambiguity, thus being authentic. For Camus, it's coming to terms with the absurdity, thus being authentic. For Heidegger, for example, it's being toward death. It's coming to terms with certain things. He also talks about. There's also this idea. The first two things, the suicide and the leap of faith, they are trying to reconcile with it and trying to do away with it, rationalize it away, and such. Camus says that this is not something that we can just reconcile away or try and rationalize away, or and those first two are actually inauthentic paths. The third example is living with this absurdity, and noticing it and understanding it and coming to terms with it, essentially. So this is a very common existentialist idea that if we come to terms with this and we learn to live with this, then we can have a authentic a full life. But any other trying to escape from it or flee from it or reconcile it is inauthentic. So Camus calls this the absurd life, and it's actually a positive thing. The absurd life being 10 minutes. The absurd life being the life where the person has come to terms with the absurdity and being aware of it and noticing it all the time. There's characteristics of this. There's revolt, not accepting any answer, or not really accepting any solution to this struggle. Second, there's freedom. Do think and behave as you choose. De Beauvoir, that's another big thing. That's another big thing for her in her ethics of ambiguity. That once you have come to terms with this ambiguity, that's a certain kind of, all of this that we're doing here is a certain prescription, for how to deal with this, or ethics, of how to deal with this, a way to live given this ambiguity, or with Camus, absurdity. So the myth of Sisyphus. This is it's just a certain myth that that comes to this. It's a metaphor that Camus says is a metaphor for the human condition, or the human life. And this is the man named Sisyphus is a man that has been punished for eternity, and it's like that common thing where you see him rolling this rock, up a hill. So he gets it all the way to the top, only for it to roll all the way back down again, and he keeps going on. He rolls it back up, only for it to fall back down again. So it's just endless absurd, or with de Beauvoir, ambiguous cycle. So this is with this myth, that is his punishment, to do that for eternity. And so this is, Camus talks about this. The book is called that, of course, because it represents the human condition, and because of this third option, given this absurdity, one can be happy and have a good full life in this unfortunate absurdity, only if you accept it and be authentic in your own existence. So, I guess the big question here is, do you think that our lives are really absurd, or ambiguous? Is it a constant struggle? Is it just like Sisyphus, rolling that rock up the hill only for it to fall back down again? And the answer I would say is yes. For everybody, it's going to always be that way. It's always going to be that way, to where, we're always struggling. It's, the problem of evil comes from that. It's a totally different topic, but all that suffering in the world, and, comes from, the constant struggle. A struggle of, constantly rolling that rock up the hill only for it to fall down on you again. And I think that there is a way of understanding this with a certain and I think that this is totally a way of understanding the human condition. I think that's actually perfect. So I guess, what do you think? Do you think that for those of you who have read de Beauvoir and Albert Camus, what do you think? Do you think that these are the way that our lives are? I honestly think that it's a very good interpretation.